welcome to Fashion Through History, brought to you by English Heritage. I'm fashion historian Dr. Serena Dyer, and today I've come here to Eltham Palace in London. We're here to focus on an innovative and exciting period for fashion, the 1930s. Our fashion icons for today, Stephen and Virginia Courtauld, took out a 99-year lease for Eltham and transformed it into this incredible Art Deco property. We'll be recreating some of the couple's most iconic looks, as well as looking at some of the fashions that their contemporaries would have worn. Before that, we'll be meeting English heritage historian Amy Boyington to learn a little bit more about life for the Courtaulds at Eltham in the 1930s. So, who was Stephen Courtauld?
So Stephen was from a very wealthy, successful textile manufacturing company. It had been founded in 1794, and during the Victorian period it was so successful. So for example, they mass-produced silk and crepe, and they even produced Queen Victoria's mourning crepe.
Yes, we looked at that in the Victorian episode of Fashion Through History. So can you tell us a bit more about how he met Virginia and how they came here to Eltham?
So Stephen was a very keen mountaineer, and they met in the Italian Alps. Virginia, she was a Romanian and her father was a shipping merchant. She was full of life. She was a socialite. She loved to party, and he was a bit of the opposite. He was an introvert, a bit of an intellectual. He loved to read books, but they just sort of hit it off instantly. And so in 1923, they were married in Italy. They initially set up home in Grosvenor Square in London, and they lived the high life. They even had a yacht. They toured around the world. It was called the Virginia, of course. And then in the 1930s, they thought, you know what, we want to get something else. So they actually took a 99-year lease out of Eltham Palace.
So I think that Virginia would have needed some very fancy looks for the parties that they had here at Eltham. So I think our first look should be the kind of dress that she would have worn for those events. So how does it feel to wear this fabulous gown coat?
Oh, I feel like $1 million. No, it's really comfortable and very slinky.
Yes, well, you look wonderful. And I think that slinkiness is a really important factor here. Because with the fashions that have been around in the Victorian period, in the early decades of the 20th century, it was all about structure. You would have worn corsets, you would have worn bustles, you would have been creating the body over which you're wearing your gown. But with this style, nothing is hidden. Everything is the body underneath. That's what's really being shown off. So here we have a gorgeous evening gown, which is cut on the bias, and that was very fashionable in the 1930s. And that bias means that you're following the stretch of the fabric. So it's really showing off the body underneath. So there's no way of hiding your dinner in this one. It's also cut with these fabulous godets at the bottom, which are these triangular pieces of fabric inserted into the bottom of the skirt, which create that flare, so you get amazing movement as you walk around, and of course as you do the fabulous dances of the 1930s. Really shows it off. And to finish off this look, Virginia would have worn a fur stole like this one. Here you go, Kate. So furs were incredibly popular in the 1930s. Of course, fur coats and then wonderful stoles like this, which would have been made from real fur. So this would have been perfect for the kind of events that Virginia hosted here at Eltham. Can you tell us a bit more about the social scene here?
So initially they had to create their party palace. So they commissioned the budding architects, Seeley and Paget, to create their beautiful modern home. They liked all kinds of styles, so you can go from room to room and it's like a different style each time. For example, the entrance hall is a Swedish designed entrance hall, and then you get the amazing Art Deco sort of style that you see throughout the house, which is phenomenal. So once they've created this amazing house with all the latest mod cons, they decided to entertain on a lavish scale. They hosted amazing dinners, they had flamboyant picnics out in the gardens, and they even had royalty to come and dine with them. They were a very smart set, very elegantly dressed, always drinking champagne, cocktails, anything you want really. But what I really enjoy is the fact that they had a pet lemur. And this lemur was allowed to sort of run around the house. And he even had his own centrally heated living quarters.
I'm not sure how the lemur would have felt about Virginia's first stole.
True.
And of course, it wasn't just Virginia that had to get dressed up for these events, it was her husband Stephen as well. And that's what we'll look at with our next look. And here we have Charles wearing the kind of dashing evening wear that Stephen Courtauld might have worn. How does it feel, Charles?
It feels great. I really love the velvet.
So Amy, can you tell us a bit more about Stephen Courtauld?
Because he was so wealthy, he was able to indulge all of his passions and interests. So, for example, he was a really keen mountaineer, and of course that's how he met Virginia in the Italian Alps. He was also a keen gardener, and they transformed Eltham's gardens. He really enjoyed giving money to good causes or causes that he found interesting. He was a great philanthropist. So he really had this amazing range of interests and passions. And this all culminated in 1958 when he was awarded a knighthood.
A very busy man, and of course that would have meant lots of evening engagements and lots of evening wear. Evening wear in the 1930s wasn't that dissimilar to what we're familiar with today, the tuxedo, the three-piece suit, but what Charles is modelling here is a little bit more different. So this is a smoking jacket. So this is the kind of thing that you might have worn for a more informal evening event, the kind of things that they might have had here at Eltham at home, or that you might have put on once you got home from a lovely soiree in the city, and to feel a little bit more comfortable, to smoke some cigars. This is a velvet smoking jacket. You can see that it is padded and quilted, so it's lovely and cosy. There's lots of warmth and layers there. There's some lovely frogging on the front that adds some detail to the buttons, and there's also, very handily, some lovely pockets to keep your spare cigars or your lighter in. Of course, Charles is wearing this over the top of what would have been the rest of his evening attire, so you can still see the white shirt, the black wool trousers, and the bow tie. Evening wear for men in this period is very similar across the social spectrum. Middle-class men would have worn similar evening wear as well. So the key differences come in the quality of fabric and in that kind of material eye, that literacy in what is good quality fashion. So things like the fabric of your lapels would have really added that je ne sais quoi to the outfit. So let's bring Kate back in. Don't you look wonderful together? So now that we have both Courtaulds, why don't you try out your evening wear and enjoy your wonderful house here at Eltham together? But of course, it wasn't just very wealthy people like the Courtaulds that got to enjoy fashion in the 1930s. So let's ask Kate back and see our final look. So Kate, now you are wearing a house dress from the 1930s. How does this one feel?
Much more practical, less luxuriously.
Yes, it's definitely quite a transformation. So in the 1930s, we really see the rise of mass-produced, ready-to-wear fashion. Fashion magazines for middle and working class women are becoming far more widely available, and that's really promoting the consumption of these dresses. So Amy, how were the Courtaulds involved in this rise of ready-to-wear fashion?
The Courtaulds owned a textile manufacturing company, and during the 1930s they mass-produced fabrics such as artificial silks, and this allowed the ordinary housewife to purchase these fabrics that had been sort of unavailable to them before.
So while women like Virginia Courtauld were wearing those beautiful silk satins, it was the women that were buying those artificial silks, those viscoses and rayons, that were supporting this lifestyle. So this particular example isn't made from an artificial silk, it's made from cotton, but it's similarly practical. You could do your housework, you could do your cooking, and you'd still be able to wash this dress at the end of the day. Again, not something you could have done with that beautiful silk satin earlier. It's also made from a printed fabric, so if you got anything splashed on the dress, it would be hidden within the print, and you'd still look lovely when you opened the door to the postman in the morning. This dress also buttons down the front, so it's very easy to get on by yourself. We've got pockets as well. This dress is all about practicality and comfort, so you can keep all of those cleaning products on you while you're moving around the house. She might also have worn an apron over this dress with even more pockets in it. So you can do all of those practical things that you need to do as a 1930s housewife, but you can look glamorous at the same time. As you can see, the 1930s were a period of great social and cultural change in England, and fashion was no exception to this. From the glitz and glamour of the Courtaulds to the more accessible fashions of working people, fashion in the 1930s was diverse and evolving. If you'd like to find out more about Eltham Palace, then please go to the English Heritage website.